Congressman, you made a long flight to be with us this morning from your home state. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Good to be with you.
I want to ask you something. You came very, very close to beating Mitt Romney in Maine yesterday. Our estimate is he's going to get 8 delegates there. You're going to get 7. But I know this was one that you really wanted to win. Where do you go now?
Well, you know, our numbers on the delegates are much different because the process has only started, and we're in a very good position to win a good majority of those votes. But, you know, we were a little bit disappointed last night, but we were disappointed that the one county where we have done the best in the past, and we were expected to do the best, they canceled their caucus. So we did very well up there, but we're going to continue to do what we do and do the very best and keep accumulating delegates.
Well, what do you see as your path now? Do you really think you can get the nomination, or are you just there to get enough delegates to be a force at the convention?
Sure. I think both. We're there to win, do our best. Romney's been up and down, the other's been up and down, and I haven't been down. I keep going up. I don't really go up and down, and our numbers grow. And once they join our campaign, anybody join our campaign, become solid supporters, and who knows what's going to happen. We live in an age where things change rather rapidly, politically and economically, and certainly in foreign policies, things change. So this whole ball game can change rather rapidly.
Let me just ask you something. People may disagree with you, but I don't know anyone, including me, who doubts your sincerity or who doesn't believe that you believe what you're saying. Having said that, why do you think Mitt Romney is having so much trouble convincing people that he is a conservative?
Well, I don't know exactly why, because I think that if it comes to Gingrich or Santorum, they should suffer the same consequences. Maybe it's the type of coverage and the image, but I don't think they have been vetted very well, because I know them pretty well, and their records are far from being conservative. But Mitt has been a governor, and he's taken these positions, but I think that all of them are rather typical of what's wrong with the country, you know, that they don't have firm convictions, and of course they've been rewarded. Many people are rewarded for saying, well, don't be overly rigid. Well, they're very rigid in flip-flopping. Well, I might be so-called rigid in defending the Constitution, but in the past that was seen to be a negative because we weren't in much trouble. We were very wealthy and nobody worried too much about it. But now we're broke, and now what I'm talking about has much greater appeal to the large number of people in the country today.
So you're saying what Governor Romney's problem with conservatives is that, in fact, he is not a conservative.
Well, I think he's conservative in some ways, but I think he's every bit as conservative as the other two. That's my point. You know, I don't think he's less conservative. I think if the country only has the choice of those three individuals, they have to look for the person who might be more willing to look at even more conservative ideas. I mean, if you are overly rigid as an interventionist as far as foreign policy and economic policy goes, they may well be worse than the person who says, well, you know, I was more liberal when I was a governor, but now I'm more conservative because I have to represent more conservatives. But I think the problem is that all three of them have represented the same system, the same status quo, and not wanting changes in the foreign policy. None of them talk about real spending cuts. None of them talk about real changes in monetary policy. So they're not a whole lot different. So I think it's, when it comes down to those three, it's probably going to be management style more than anything else.
Well, talking about his governorship, Governor Romney told the CPAC convention here in Washington that he was, the word he used was a severe conservative. Now, I know about liberal Republicans and conservative Republicans and libertarian Republicans, but I never heard of a severe Republican or a severe conservative. What is that? Do you know?
Well, I think I share your interest in that, because that was the first time I've heard that definition. So I guess Mitt will have to tell us exactly what he means. Obviously, he means he's a serious conservative, and he was trying to defend himself or portray himself as such. But I don't know exactly what he was meaning by that.
There seems to be kind of a lack of enthusiasm this year. I mean, your people, I'll give you your due. Your people come out and they seem committed to you, but I don't see that kind of enthusiasm elsewhere in this field. Why do you think that is?
Well, I don't think the other candidates are offering a lot of change. I think one of the most disturbing things, well, a couple of things the Republicans ought to be disturbed about, that they do not, other than myself, they're not appealing to young people. And another thing was that 20% of Republicans now are considering that they might, either just stay at home or vote for Obama, and they are staying home from the primaries. So that means they're not offering, a real alternative. I think when people hear my message, they get excited about it because, it makes sense. A lot of people come up and say, what you're saying just makes common sense. Why do we keep getting involved in these wars? What's this idea that you need money, you just print it? It seems so logical, and yet it's been ingrained in our system for nearly 100 years. Well, if you need money, spend it, just print it, and everything is going to be all right, and deficits don't matter. Conservatives and liberals have taught for decades that deficits don't matter. That's it's come out of both parties, but young people especially seem to, get away from those cliches and say, well, we want to hear some common sense, and we want to have somebody who believes in something that will obey the Constitution, and that's what I find excites so many people.
Do you think, not knowing yet who the Republican nominee is going to be, do you think the Republicans can actually beat President Obama this fall?
Oh, sure, they can, but I still think it's up for grabs. If they think, 6 months ago they thought, well, any Republican could beat him. I don't think that's the case. I think, the incumbent has big advantages. They have control of, they have the bully pulpit. They can do so much, and Obama's going to raise a ton of money. One time he was bragging that he was going to raise $1 billion, but now he's going with the super PACs. So money does talk, and he has the attention. So any Republican who thinks it's a shoo-in should have another thought coming.
Well, let me just ask you this quickly, because I got to wind this up. Do you think Mitt Romney, if he's the nominee, can beat Barack Obama?
Yeah, I do. I think I could beat him too, and I think I have appeal to some of those Democrats that he doesn't have because, I don't know if anybody noticed, but there was a Democratic primary in New Hampshire and had, I think, close to 3,000 write-ins of Democrats. So yes, he can beat Obama, but I think you also need somebody that appeals to Democrats and independents. And if people look carefully at what I'm talking about, they'll find out that my message does have an appeal across the political spectrum.
Well, we thank you very much for being with us this morning. Thank you so much, Congressman. The top Senate Republican